think the environment has been
What we're saying is have a heart.
We've got to be able to regenerate our
There'll be
condoms.
people who are kind, people who are cruel, but that's life. You can be bigoted about videos. I'm fine with that.
What's wrong with Singaporeans?
Welcome back. We'd now like to talk about some health issues when men visit prostitutes. In particular, I'd like to cite a survey that was done recently where there were 91% respondents, and overall 45% said they use condoms inconsistently. And these were clients most likely to have poor sexually transmitted disease knowledge, and they visited sex workers 5 or more times in the last 6 months. Now, this seems to be quite a large problem in Singapore. And what are the consequences of unprotected sex with prostitutes? Is it a choice of prostitutes?
You see, a woman, any woman, has a right to say no to unprotected sex and unsafe sex.
So what is the reality in Singapore?
My work at Action for AIDS shows that those who work in a licensed brothel, they have to come regularly for checkups. And the late Dr. Balaji always used to say that the incidence rate for any form of sexually transmitted diseases, HIV, is almost zero, because everyone takes care, and in the brothel you must use the condom. But if you are working in an unlicensed brothel, and the guy, the pimp, whether it's a lady or a man, they do not care, the ability to say no is really minimized, because I have a debt to pay and I have to just get on with it and have sex. So that lady becomes very vulnerable. The man who has sex with her is also equally vulnerable. The third thing is, if I am soliciting through the phone or whatever, it is the same kind of application. You do not get the same kind of power to negotiate for your the use of a condom, and whatever it is, still condom has got a higher level of protection than any other thing that we know. But the last part on this that I want to say, I think we have had enough stories anecdotally that the girls and the women will tell you that more than just having, even if a condom is used, there are other sexual acts that sometimes are demanded, and not all of them can become like you can wear a condom for it. So,
for example?
Oral sex. So you get, you can actually wear a condom, but I can't see many wanting to. So you have sexual sores in the mouth and all that. These are all on a scale of vulnerability. This is quite high where the girls and the women are concerned. So this is what I can say about the health education. The last part is the Ministry of Health runs clinics in, I don't know why, they are in Geylang. And the girls, anybody can just drop in to get some education and some medication or whatever, so there are all these things happening, but not many are still going to seek help, because many of them come under different schemes. If I'm on a social visit pass, if you're going to ask me how did I get this, I am not going to tell you, so I rather not go. So the risk of having a rise in sexually transmitted diseases, I think, is quite real for us.
Yeah, we also have like few cases. So I actually ask them and also educate them, but then they say, well, because they pay higher, so there is a temptation there. So I said that's a risk for you. And the second thing is, those are Singaporean what I'm addressed is like they doesn't want to know. They don't want to go and check up. Actually, we want to help them to bring them to have HIV checkup. But this is not under the pimps. They are free to go there. They say, no, I don't need to. I'm very careful. They doesn't want to know. Yes.
Actually, I've got a question which is more, well, not so much of a comment, but I think by Timothy's introduction, I'm just wondering what his experience has been in terms of what the general culture among prostitutes is in your personal experience. Do they dictate at the end of the day that there must be protected sex, or do even the pimps dictate, what the customers' needs are to the prostitutes, that certain customers who pay more are going to get unprotected sex as a given? I mean, are those kind of coercive, dictates, prevalent in the prostitution industry?
It's a pretty good question. It's one that I think I might be able to speak into as well. I've been walking the streets for about 3 years now, and during this time I've seen evolution in several things. One of the things that I haven't seen very much evolution in is sexual health standards. So the ladies require the use of a condom, but the problem here is in an unlicensed situation where there's a lack of regulation. It is a buyer's market, and what I mean by that is that the man who is paying for the sexual services can then say, oh well, I'm not going to pay you, or threaten harm, in which case then the female is forced to comply and not use a condom or any sort of protection.
And they do comply?
They have to, they're forced to, because if
even
there's
though
a threat,
there's a danger that they might catch something?
well, if you're in a room alone with somebody who's threatening to beat you up if you don't give them what they've paid for or what they said they're there to do, there's the likelihood that you would comply. Yeah.
But that's not paid sex, that's rape. Because what you're actually
Legally
doing
is rape?
is legally rape,
Yeah.
because
And this-
you're not having consensual sex. You're
I
basically
need to tease this out a bit more. I don't think all the time it is rape.
It's not, yeah.
There's a transaction that has gone on, and there's money. The girl has gone in willingly, but the thing is, the terms of the transaction has changed.
Yes.
So no more safe sex. More added on. I need you to do this. I need you to do that.
Yes, correct.
And you have no power. I don't know whether that is the you go along with it. I think in these cases, these are all traffic cases we are talking about now. In trafficked cases, the power is very low. You don't have
The
the
power
power.
of the prostitute.
Yes, of the sex worker, and you have a debt. You have a debt. The pimp is waiting for your money, and if you give less than that transaction, then there are deductions. In some cases, there are beatings. So the whole situation is crazy.
If I may add a tease of
Yes.
clarification to that
Yeah.
as well, right? It's not so much that these are isolated to trafficking cases as it is to something that is fully possible in a situation where you are an unlicensed prostitute operating undercover. So what that would mean is that these coercive situations can happen to ladies who are in unregulated environments as well. So they may not be trafficking victims, but because of the lack of regulation around the work that they do, the protections around the work that they do, they find themselves in vulnerable positions and victims of behavior like this.
But the notion of trafficking, even though they came through on their own, will be applied because of the relationship between the person who's buying the sex and she giving the sex.
But when you have a situation where
Under the PALEMO, the definition. Yeah.
But when a customer goes up to a prostitute, whether she's unlicensed or licensed, and turns around and says, I'm going to beat you up if you don't allow me to have unprotected sex with you, then it's non-consensual.
But the
paid
pimp
sex.
is on standby, right? Would the pimp allow
see,
that? Or the
yes.
pimp-
So then the question is this, I mean, and this is a twisted irony, I suppose. Here's where regulated areas or areas known to have pimps operating will kick in as a protective measure for those prostitutes who come within their wing. Right?
Either that or the pimp may force them.
Or either that or the pimp may turn around and say, for higher payment, okay, you get a bonus and you're allowed to have unprotected sex, and he dictates that the prostitute has unprotected sex. I suppose you could cut both ways. My question is, but how often, from your experience, do pimps have these kind of coercive dictates where they dictate that their girls have unprotected sex for perhaps higher payment?
From my experience, not very frequently in the
That's what I
context
thought,
of
yeah.
Geylang, because there seems to be a very Stockholmish relationship between the pimps and the ladies that they look after, and very often there's a lot of teasing, there's a lot of poking and jovial mockery on the streets, right? How fierce it gets, in the back is unknown to a lot of us, but the anecdotes tell us that it can get pretty rough. And also another thing, if I may just jump back slightly before this, was the pimp doesn't necessarily get in on the conversation between the client and the girl once they are out of sight, because once you go to the room is where all these additional requirements come up, and the pimp is no longer in the picture then, you see. So very often the pimp is also fairly clear, because it benefits him to have his lady clean and healthy, right? So there it doesn't benefit him to have her do something that will shorten the longevity of her service, right? And so for that reason, right, it's not very common to see pimps force the ladies to have unprotected sex.
No, but
And
sometimes they
can
come
I
for
just
short
add
term
on
only,
this?
right?
Yeah.
1 month.
Yeah, I just want to jump on this. I think Timothy is great. He's doing a lot of walk in the streets, but I think all three of us are familiar with how pimps also operate. So I just want to put that out there. And I think that the pimp scenario, that is one scenario. The pimps also take care of girls and women on the 2-week turnaround social visit pass, in some cases 21 days. Honestly, some of them do not care about the health of the sex worker. It is just, hello, you have come all the way from I do not know which country, there's a debt to be cleared, you have to clear the debt. I transfer this scenario to the karaoke lounges. The women who come there are supposed to just push drinks. Some of them are told $300 you're supposed to push for drinks in a day. So the dictate is do whatever that it takes to get $300. So it's not only just sitting on the lap, it is anything. And if you don't do it, I will dock your salary, I will do this and I will do that. So this is really happening in our karaoke bars. Am I right?
Yeah.
Yes.
Can I just ask, how much
Yeah.
money are we talking about? How much does a girl get?
It's very different that nationalities.
Yep.
Okay.
Okay, so I think the biggest group in Geylang is from China. So they actually are more beautiful. They get more hires.
How much?
I would say because I'm helping the Singaporean girls, they can be, I would say 5 times difference. For Singaporeans or Singaporean street workers, they only get an hour how much money is very different than
How much does a Singaporean girl get?
Okay, they only get, I think the lowest one, the lowest one that really have to survive every day by day is $30.
And a higher one?
And if they're really a Singaporean, higher one is only 100.
100. So the
And
China
then-
girl will get 500?
Yes, they can be like that high.
What about the other girls? There are girls from Vietnam, from Thailand?
That will be different ages, and that they are most of them are under the pimps. Yes, but China ladies are not.
China ladies are not
They're
under
not.
pimps.
They're free to come in with social pass, and then they can stay in the corner, and then one month finish, they just go back. You know, in Geylang, there's all the old uncles there. So many at night, they all have CPF. So we just make a joke. Some of my friends told me, CPF, what's a CPF in Geylang? Oh, China prostitute fund. You can kind of.
Okay. But how much does the pimp take out of a
So
girl?
it isn't exactly a commission basis. It is something, it's a lump sum that is taken at the start of the contract when you are brought into the country.
Okay.
So somebody on the other end, you pay them a certain amount and you come in. The anecdotes vary. I've heard numbers from as low as $700 to what, like 1,700, 3,000?
Over 1 month?
No, for the transport into Singapore.
Okay.
That which they have to pay back first.
Yes.
And then they keep the rest.
The rest.
So
So what period do we have to return this money?
Oh, you do as many as you can, and
Over
you,
a period of 1 month,
yeah,
let's say.
yeah, because that's what your visa allows you.
They can come, and then after 2 months, stay in their own country, they can come back
And then
again.
the debt begins
Yes,
again.
Yeah.
then they come back again.
But to a lesser extent. So it's a
Yes.
tiered structure. The first time you come in is the most that you have to pay, and then when you come in subsequent times, you pay less and less.
Yeah, and there are gradings of the kind of brothels, whatever they use. Grade 1 to, as far as I know, grade 1 to grade 4. Grade 1 is your top tier where you can charge more, and then by the time you have been in the service for some time, your money is less and the debt is less.
Yeah.
So it is a very depressing industry.
But I heard also that you have Eastern European girls that come in as
Yep.
so-called models. How much do they get?
Oh, that's not Geylang industry.
It's not in
We're
Geylang.
talking
It's not
about
Geylang. Yes.
we're talking about Orchard Towers already.
Yes, yeah, that's
I
it's
think
Orchard Tower.
even more than
More.
maybe
How
Orchard
much
Towers.
is
I think it's
How much
another
is
like
I think they
client
are.
base.
You're talking in excess of 500 a session.
Yeah.
Okay. I've also heard that there are something called forest brothels.
Yeah.
Now, what are these?
I think I really have no idea how often forest brothels occur, but it has happened once and it appeared in the papers.
Yes.
And it was some Thai women who were brought in, and then they were a tent or something was pitched up, and primarily a lot of foreign workers were lining up to
So
have
these
sex
are
with
pitched
them.
up near foreign worker
Yeah,
dormitories.
yeah, and it is because the place where the tent was pitched
Forested,
up
yeah.
happened to be in some clearing in some forest.
I see.
Has it occurred again? I do not know, but it was sensational. Because I think in our context in Singapore, we've never come across something like this. In that whole thing, everyone got wrapped up by, oh, there's a brothel, there's the word brothel in the forest, that the women who were brought in, as far as we know, they never knew that they had to really service this queue of men.
Yeah.
That is severe exploitation, some definite instances of rape,
Yeah.
definitely.
Yeah.
And the women were treated more or less as social visit pass, etc., and then sent back to Thailand as whatever,
Okay.
So these are the issues that we are facing now. What do we do? Victim protection. Definitely the person who brought them out, I don't know to what extent we have hunted down the person, etc.
Okay.
Yeah.
We leave forest brothels and we are going to move on to a bigger topic of trafficking later. But just one comment. Forest brothels do exist and they are raided on a monthly basis at this time, and that's what our research has shown.